Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every single morning to help you catch up with things that you might have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some all-important sleep, because let's face it, whilst you and I need rest, the world of sport doesn't really ever come to a rest. There's always something or the other going on, but worry not, we're here to help you catch up with those things. And let's start off with a very interesting update, once again centering Bangladesh. After their team pulled out of the T20 World Cup 2026, it now turns out that the ICC has denied accredit to a lot of Bangladeshi journalists who have applied for coverage of the T20 World Cup as well. In fact, over 100 journalists from the nation have been denied accreditation, and according to news reports, what we're getting to know is that ICC denied them that because on one hand they kept talking about there being a security problem, and on the other hand that is why they have not been allowed to enter. So it's basically, it seems like a little bit of a quid pro quo, but make of that what you will. Speaking of Bangladesh players, there was obviously expected to be some uproar when it came to the news that Nazmul Islam, the controversial BCB director who ended up getting fired due to being on strike, had now been reinstated. And a lot of players, or a couple of players rather, have spoken anonymously to newspapers in Bangladesh, and they've been saying stuff like, well, this is great news. Obviously, you can see how it is that things are being run here. And yeah, it's fair to say it's fairly on the chaotic side. So the same person who was making derogatory remarks against the players and perhaps should have stayed fired instead of just being randomly reinstated in that manner. However, one let's say entity that has been very vocal throughout this entire saga has been Pakistan, who've been going to bat for Bangladesh better than their own batters can go to bat for them. And it has now finally led to something of a response, with BCCI Vice President Rajiv Shukla hitting out at Pakistan, saying that all they're trying to do here is instigate Bangladesh, and we know full well that this is something that they are trying to do. He's made a pretty strongly worded statement. He said it to news agency ANI, and again, it's hard to disagree with what it is that he's saying. And speaking of Bangladesh, one more news kind of sort of related to them. Scotland have named their squad for the T20 World Cup. Why do I say it's related? Because, well, Scotland wouldn't be in the World Cup were it not for Bangladesh pulling out at the 11th hour. Now, obviously, even for Scotland, it has been very quick turnaround time, and the squad that they've named is one that has plenty of experience. Remember, this is a team that have played in multiple editions of the T20 World Cup prior, and in fact are higher ranked in the ICC rankings than certain teams who actually made it through to the tournament this year, such as the lottery nature of the qualifiers format. It's also a good squad, has a good mix of experience and youth, so it'll be interesting to see how it is that they can compete, given they are in a slightly tough group, dare I say. Last bit of cricket news, and actually a couple of interesting factors to come out from last night's WPL game. Mumbai Indians player Nazmul Hossain ended up making history by becoming the first ever centurion in the history of the Women's Premier League, and her knock ensured that MI could get through what was a tricky chase at times and ensure that they keep their playoff hopes alive. Remember, for MI, if they win their next two games, they're pretty much sorted because they'll be at 10 points. So one of those games was against RCB, so now they're at 8, and it's in a good situation they find themselves in, because not only is their points total good, they also have a positive net run rate which will hold them in good stead. The rest of the teams all have run rates in the negatives right now, so we'll need big wins going forward. Of course, this also means that RCB are yet to actually seal their qualification for the automatic final slot. Remember, they have already made it through to the knockout stages because of their early form where they won 5 games on the trot, but they've now lost 2 games on the trot, and it's a bit of a concerning dip because really all they need right now is one win. That one win guarantees them a spot in the final because no one else will be able to make it to 12 points, so they're guaranteed table toppers. Will that win come in their next match? That is something that remains to be seen. Remember, it's their final group stage game, and if they win, then they're through to the final. If they lose, they can still make it, but they'll need other results to go their way. Switching focus now, plenty of tennis news going around because, of course, the Australian Open is reaching the business end. Alexander Zverev is through to the semi-finals because he beat Leonard Tien in 4 sets. Zverev won the first set, Tien won the second via tiebreaker, but then after that, Zverev found another level, absolutely turned the heat up on Tien and managed to win the next 2 sets with minimal fuss. Another player who sealed her spot in the semi-finals, Sabalenka, the favorite to actually go on to win the women's singles title. She very easily got past Eva Jovic. She won the first set comfortably, and the second one was even more comfortable because it was a bagel. So Sabalenka through to the semis, no problems whatsoever, and it does seem like the pre-tournament predictions of her being the absolute favorite are coming to be very true. Another interesting bit of news, of course, is that now the quarterfinals will see all the top players going up against each other. So Carlos Alcaraz, the world number one, who's never won an Australian Open, remember, is one win away now, of course, one Grand Slam title win away from doing the career Grand Slam. He is going to be facing home favourite Alex de Minaur in the quarterfinals later today. So it'll be interesting to see how it is he fares there. Obviously, Alcaraz, the clear favourite, but de Minaur has been showing some impressive form and buoyed on by a very vocal home crowd. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Last bit of news before we call it quits. Michael Schumacher, the legendary F1 7-time world champion, whose health has been something of a mystery, you can say, ever since he had that skiing accident all the way back in 2013. Well, there are news reports suggesting that there has been some sort of a change in his condition, his medical condition, and it is at least slightly for the better. Why? Because it's being reported that he can now actually be moved around in his house on a wheelchair, whereas previous reports claimed that he was fully bedridden and required 24-hour around-the-clock service. Currently, he can be on a wheelchair, although, again, details of his condition remain largely unknown because the family have gone through great lengths to protect his privacy, which is something I can respect, even though, I mean, all of us would like to know what exactly the state the 7-time world champ is in, but you have to respect the family's wishes in this case. But that's it from us on this edition of the Morning Wrap. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, X and Facebook, and stay tuned for more such updates from the world of sport.